All right, there's that. It's been a second, it feels like. We went Monday, but missing just one day makes it hard. So, all right, we're rocking and rolling. Got waiting on the Facebook groups. Boom and boom. All right, welcome in. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, the 22nd. Last show for me for a week. I'll be gone next week. I'm not sure exactly what Eric's doing there, but yeah, welcome in. Special show. My wife got back from an interview yesterday, so luckily I have somebody to watch the kids, which means my butt's down here hanging out in the basement with all you guys. And want to say hello to Eric. Eric, how you doing? Did you thank you for covering for me Tuesday night for building the Broncos? How did everything go?
Doing good. We had a fun conversation, to say the least. We making some jokes about realigning the NFL and the divisions as a way to try to help solve their issue with the playoff seating. But obviously, they probably won't be doing that, and they're not doing the reseeding aspect of it to where it's by record now. They've tabled that until next year. But as for next week, we won't be doing any shows. I'm going to take the week off as well and just get some caught up on some rest and some sleep and stuff like that, because next week's actually a busy week for my family too. So just going to use that to get the rest needed before things get pretty hectic next week.
Well, there you guys, you heard it. So no Broncos for breakfast next week. I will be on the other side on the Atlantic coast. And yeah, Eric's going to be doing whatever Eric does. I don't know. If you have an invite for the chat, let them know. Maybe they can join for your family stuff. But yeah, we're going to talk today about PFF's quarterback list. But I did want to talk about a few topics here, some trending topics since we haven't had a chance to talk since Monday. First off, flag football, Olympics. You and I have not had a chance to talk about this yet. Obviously, 2028. Guys are going to be that much older by then, so that's really going to change things. And I'll be honest with you, I did not watch flag football. I have not watched. I played like in intramurals in college. There's not going to be much offensive line, right? Like it's like you
There
count
is
to five
none.
up. There's not an offensive line.
It's 5-on-5, no offensive or defensive line.
Okay, so I'm not interested. That's my favorite area to watch in football, the trenches. So with that, see, I don't even know the rules. Who are your five Bronco potential guys for this, if that's the case?
Well, I mean, I talked about this on Tuesday night with Carl, and one of the guys that there's an obvious answer here. Even though it's 3 years from now, there's still a pretty obvious one. Patrick Surtain,
Mm-hmm.
right? Flag football just seems to match what he does, and being able to have right now the reigning defensive player of the year out there locking down somebody, and the talent difference between the USA and the other countries is going to be so immense because football is such a American sport, even flag football is, and so there's going to be this talent differential. I do question whether NFL teams will allow their like star players to actually compete in it, because it'll be over before the start of training camp, but because of the schedule for it, they already know that it's going to be starting a little bit early in July before the actual Olympics start, and then finish up not long into it. Sometime I think in the first week, I think that's what they said. Uh, but outside of Patrick Surtain, I think Marvin Mims or RJ Harvey with their speed,
Those are the
because
two I was going to say.
speed in flag football is just such a immense thing to have. It's such a great thing to have. Outside of them, I think if the other top quarterbacks don't compete, Bo Nix could be an interesting one if he continues to develop. And then on defense, Dre Greenlaw. I think Dre Greenlaw would be a good one to have as one of the linebackers. They're obviously going to favor defensive backs because it's mainly wide receivers, but you got to still have a linebacker out there because they can have tight ends. So I think Dre Greenlaw could be an interesting one as well.
Yeah, I think the two that are obvious, well, they must be obvious because you said them immediately, but Marvin Mims and RJ Harvey. I mean, what's RJ Harvey's question? Between the tackles, is he going to kick
Yeah.
things out? What does that look like? Not really worry in college football in that extent, but we have questions about him as a pass catcher. So we'll see there. Doesn't mean he can't, of course, just,
Yeah.
the UCF offense, questionable there. And then Marvin Mims, I don't know how much the route running matters as much there with you're operating with that much space. So those are the two that came to mind. I was also going to say Jahdae Barron, just a flexible coverage guy that's going to be quarterback plus wide receiver / defensive backs. That's if it's 5-on-5, that's the format. So that's what I would say Jahdae Barron deserves a shout out as well. And next topic here, Eric, did want to talk about the rule stuff where do you sit on everything that came down yesterday? So obviously they're not changing the playoff reseeding, and we're not getting rid of the push tush. Denver voted to ban the push tush. They play Philly next year. I saw all of the AFC West teams voted to get rid of it because they're playing the NFC East. Personally, I think it's cowardly to get rid of it. There's no honor in doing so. It's one of those things that if everybody could do it, they would. So it's like, should we stop? Let's say Patrick Mahomes can't leave the pocket. No quarterbacks can leave the pocket anymore because the Chiefs are too good at it. That's kind of how I view it too. It's dumb. So if everybody had Patrick Mahomes caliber quarterback, then everybody'd want it. So same with Jalen Hurts in the push tush. And it's not just Hurts, it's also the offensive line. So I don't know. I think it's stupid, cowardly. If there was a lot of data showing that people were getting much more injured consistently, like statistically verified from that, granted, sample size is small enough that it would be hard to actually get statistical verification. But I digress. I think that it's cowardly, and I'm glad that it didn't pass.
Yeah, I have an article up that kind of quickly went over all of the rule changes that they voted on yesterday, and I spent the most time talking about the push on the push to ban the push because I'm with you. I think it's cowardly. I think it's soft. If just because, it all starts with the reason why it was even put forth, and the Packers didn't hide it. They pushed to ban it because they can't stop it. Well, get good, get better, do something different, try to stop it. Like, you shouldn't punish a team for excelling at doing something just because the teams can't figure out how to stop it or because other teams can't do it. We've seen one team be able to stop it effectively, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe it was like a success rate of like only one tush push against the Buccaneers. The Eagles had one success rate or one success. And how is that? Well, Vita Vea. Like, he's a big key for it. They figured out a way to stop it, and it starts with him. So you have the blueprint on how to do it. Teams just need to do it. And I think it's stupid because it sets a dangerous precedent of teams being able to excel at something and then just being like, nope, other teams can't do it. Other teams can't stop it. So we're just going to ban it. Mm-hmm. It's just a slippery slope that I think is silly to go on. And people also forget that they did away with the rule of pushing and pulling players a few years ago. Like almost 10 years ago, I think. And so it's still legal in that aspect. And that was the main push, was that. And as you said, there's no evidence of injuries for it. One of the biggest ones is Chris Jones hurting his back, but people forget he was going into the Super Bowl with the back injury. And so that's not one that you can really point to as that play caused the injury. And as of right now, I think there's been almost no injuries caused because of it, only minor ones. And nothing serious. So unless that changes, there's no reason to ban it for player safety and punishing it again because the team excels at it. It's stupid. It's soft. It's cowardly. Get good. Stop it. Get good at trying to do it, or just live with it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that front. And let's say hello to everybody in the chat as they're coming in here now that we've given it a little bit time to hang out. David Youngkin, prayers goes to the Irsay family. Yeah, news yesterday. Jim Irsay, I believe 65 years old. So, that's not young, but not old. Passes away. So I saw Peyton Manning had a touching little write-up on Instagram as well. So thoughts to the Colts and that family. Do we get their home opener that week 2 game? Do you have any idea, Eric, if they play opener week 1 as well?
I'm not sure on the Colts schedule. Okay. No, I believe they play at home. Let me see, pulling it up now against at home against the Dolphins week 1.
Okay. So we won't have the probably massive tribute and everything that goes into that. So, but yeah, no, it's too bad. I mean, Irsay obviously had some volatile, I guess. Not volatile sounds like aggressive, but substance stuff and everything. He liked to party, it seemed, but still, it's really too bad. So yeah, prayers go out to the Irsay family and the Indianapolis Colts, who probably in the AFC are the team that I have the least qualms with. It's probably, if I had to pick another team in the AFC, it would be Indianapolis, because loved Peyton when he was there, even despite him spanking the Broncos. And my next door neighbor married Bob Sanders and got to know Bob Sanders a little bit growing up, as well as Dallas Clark. They were around. I'll never forget Bob Sanders' quads being the size of like my waist when I was middle school. So yeah, pretty awesome group there. Some good Iowa Hawkeyes with the Colts. So thoughts to the Colts. We got Chase Wellner. Morning, guys. Good to see you. Broncos Tube says, screw PFF. 19, are you kidding? We're going to get into it. I like Jeremy's comment here. Said, morning, boys. Bo Nix is ranked too low. Where did they rank him? He's just coming in. He knows it's going to be too low to start. So I like the joke. Amy, good morning to you. Great to see you. Colin Wood says, Broncos always get little or no respect in these things. I almost expect it now. I will say, I think the tide's turning there. I haven't written it up yet, but the Athletic football podcast with Robert Mays and Derek Klassen have done a series. They're doing a 4-episode series where they're buying or selling or neutral on off seasons teams had. And they got to the Broncos show the Broncos segment on Monday, and they smashed the buying of the Broncos. They said they're almost afraid because there's so much consensus from the media how much love there is for what the Broncos have done over the last couple off seasons and the direction they have, and just how complete that roster looks on paper right now, that they're like, it's like everybody's saying it. Are we missing something right now? So, but I would say that Denver is on the other end of like as a team build right now, but Bo Nix is still getting a little respect, and he's a first-year quarterback still. I understand baking in the trepidation, wanting to see a larger sample size overall. However, they did have Jaden Daniels all the way up at 6 overall, so that kind of goes into the face of building in a little bit of conservative nature in the viewpoint. So they're not doing that. I would have Jaden lower, and with the context of I want to see it again because growth is not linear. We saw it from CJ Stroud last season, right? Oh my gosh, he's going to be in the MVP conversation. No, regression, not all his fault, of course, but I have no issue with letting the sample size be a little bit more robust on these guys.
Yeah, my issue isn't necessarily where Bo Nix is ranked. I think 15 to 20 is fair for a first-year quarterback. I have more issues of two guys that are ahead of him, both of whom, in my opinion, shouldn't have no business being ahead of Bo Nix. But I get it. Bo Nix, again, as you said, first-year quarterback. He had that rough start, but it's the way he finished is what you're wanting to build off of, and I think that he had a great start. And then Jaden Daniels, he's a little high for me. I'm with you there. As great of a season as he had, it still was one season. And he hit a point where he got banged up a little bit and his play started to falter. And so there's some injuries there, or some concerns there over injuries that I would have him a little bit lower over on the board. But it's a fine ranking because, again, 15 to 20, that's where I would put him right now, just because it has only been 1 year and wanting to see it again, wanting to see more out of him. But it's just, there's two guys ahead of him that I just, again, have no business, in my opinion, being ahead of Bo Nix.
Well, who we have business being here because Mike Givens is giving us a reason to be here. 1999 says, thanks for always having a great show. Yeah, here's the list. I don't know if you guys can see it at home here. Oh, I clicked that one. I meant to get rid of Mike, but Mike, 1999, thank you so much. We don't want to get rid of you. We want to keep you forever. The list is Patrick Mahomes, number 1, Joe Burrow, 2, Lamar Jackson, 3, Josh Allen, 4, Jalen Hurts, 5, Jaden Daniels, 6, Matt Stafford, 7, Justin Herbert, 8, Jared Goff, 9, 10, Geno Smith, 11, Brock Purdy, 12, Jordan Love, 13, Baker Mayfield, 14, CJ Stroud, 15, Kyler Murray, 16, Trevor Lawrence, 17, Dak Prescott, and 18, Tua Tagovailoa. So interesting, no doubt about that. And all those guys are key factors for their team, right, Eric? Wouldn't you say?
I would. I mean, most quarterbacks that are good, I would say that's a good list of quarterbacks there, and all good quarterbacks are key factors for it. I still wouldn't put Kyler Murray ahead of it. And when I pulled up the article for Pro Football Focus and I read the reasoning for Kyler Murray, and then I read the reasoning for the other quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, being ahead of Bo Nix, I'm not sure why they even put them ahead of Bo Nix, because both of them are like, well, injuries. And if they can avoid injuries, it's like injuries to me are more of a concern than a quarterback potentially taking a sophomore slump and, taking a slight step back, because if you can only play 8 games, then you're limiting the impact, or 9 games or 10 games or whatever it is. And it's one of the reasons why there was another list that Pro Football Focus did, ranking the quarterbacks from last season, and they put Dak Prescott ahead of Bo Nix. And that to me is mind-boggling, because the Dak Prescott played like 9 games, whereas Bo Nix started every single one for the Broncos. So Dak Prescott played well in those games that he started, but again, when you only start a portion of the season and not the full season, it's hard for me to put you above somebody who played every single game. I don't trust Kyler Murray's ability to stay healthy. I don't trust Tua Tagovailoa's ability to stay healthy. So neither one of them have any business being ahead of Bo Nix for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're all key factors, right, Eric?
Speaking of Factor, make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle. And with 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals, from Calorie Smart to Protein Plus to Keto and so much more.
Guys, Factor absolutely powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this spring. Factor meals pack in flavor with none of the fuss. Get started at factormeals.com/milehigh50off and use code milehigh50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code milehigh50off at factormeals.com/milehigh50off for 50% off plus free shipping. That's quite the deal. So make sure you guys use that code. We love Factor here. Eric and I need to get back into it, Eric, but on the weight loss journey and getting healthier now that we're entering the middle ages. But thanks Factor for supporting the show, and you guys can support us with that as well. And that 50% off, that really does help. We got Mark in the house. Good morning. This is the best Broncos I've looked in a while. Let's go. Yeah, on paper, Broncos look pretty darn good. We do have questions. Eric had a good article yesterday about something that we've said on this show a lot. Really comes down to one thing. Just where does Bo Nix settle in the grand scheme of things this season? The one other caveat or aspect that we've said is, can they replicate their crazy 2-year run of health? Is that more luck, or is there something in the sauce there? But we'll find out. Again, another year sample there, but good to see you, Mark, over on YouTube. If you guys join us on Facebook today, click the thumbs up. We got Calvin says maybe the NFL should sponsor a paid flag football league for the rookies and free agents. I could see it for the free agents, but maybe not the rookies. They're already trying to get them up to speed with the league itself. So adding flag football in there as well. If like undrafted guys are like maybe a practice squad, but I'd rather just have like an actual developmental league if we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Where there are issues in the NFL, I find a lot is actual quarterback play sometimes and the development of the trenches. Like some of these guys are like, especially offensive line, they have the body types. They're not getting the reps out there, right? So I'd rather see like a developmental league, but NFL hasn't done that yet because they have a free developmental league right now that's pretty good in college football.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a supporter of a developmental league. I've always bounced around some different thoughts on it because it's something that we need to have to help these guys, grow and develop and improve their opportunity for the NFL. Because let's face it, even though they have that free one in college football is still not a developmental league, really. They're not focusing on developing the players. They're focusing on using their athleticism to win, basically. And that's why we see a lot of guys who are great athletes, but really bad technicians in football go high in the draft and then fail in the NFL. It's because they just don't have that development and they're not used to, putting in, not necessarily not putting in the work, but not focusing on improving the technique. They're just used to relying on that athleticism to win. And it just doesn't work in the NFL where the best of the best, the most athletic and all that, find success. So a developmental league to help those guys go into it. I've always been for it. And it's something that the NFL really does need, and it can help raise the product overall in it. And it would be nice if they took the UFL? Is that what the one is that's going on? And kind of turn that into a developmental league. They are in a certain aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to see something more of like the made like baseball with their farm system and the triple and double A kind of stuff that they have.
Yeah, it would be nice if every team just had like one minor league team that wasn't like too far away, right? Like you could have the Colorado Springs Ponies, something like that, where like it's easy to be called up and you can shuffle the roster and everything like that as well. And
not
again,
even
go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say not even one per team. Like if you take like one team from each division in the AFC and then one for each in the thing. And so you have 4 teams that use one team and send players down and stuff.
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't think they would
They wouldn't, but that would be. I think
like,
that
why
would
isn't
be.
my left tackle getting the work? He needs it. Why are we playing
Yeah.
the Chargers one instead? There'd be a lot of
I think
conflict
that
of
would
interest.
be. That's more viable than having 32
Yeah, probably.
rosters of 50 plus players.
Probably.
Then, so
Yeah.
that would be the way. But again, there's issues with every way to do it.
I think you could also have it be in the spring, so it wouldn't so you could have guys like right now the Broncos roster is 90. Let's just expand it to 110 and send a bunch of those guys from that 90 down to that. So that way it's not actually conflicting, and it could only be like a 6-game season, something like that, something small. But I don't know. Call me NFL if you guys got any if you want any dumb ideas from me. Brian Dunn, enjoy your time off. Communication is appreciated when it comes to canceling podcasts. Yeah, we're taking a quick hiatus there, real quick. We'll be back. My summer could be pretty chaotic, so I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but we'll let you guys know when we know. But getting back to this list here, I'm actually going over this, Eric, and I think the chat will probably, like they normally do, disagree with me. I don't have too much issue with putting Nix at 19 overall. When I look at it, like the guys underneath him, I think the only argument for anybody below him that like if somebody put him above Nix, I'd be like, okay, like fine. I think you could argue Drake May last season just because of some of the highlights, the rushing aspect. Like I'm putting Bo Nix above him. If somebody wanted to argue Drake May, considering he probably had the worst singular situation of any quarterback in football, like everybody's like wringing their hands and crying over Caleb Williams' situation last season. Did we see what the Patriots had? I mean, the Drake May looked pretty good still. So somebody wanted to argue Drake May, and I'll fully admit there's bias there because I liked Drake May a lot coming out. But if somebody wanted to argue that, I'm not going to do it. I'd put Nix above him. But if somebody argued it, I'd be like, okay, if there was a argument for Caleb Williams based more on the college tape and the youth still, I'd kind of see that one too, but not as much. I think the only real argument for pushing Bo Nix down a slot would be Drake May out of the guys listed below him. And who's below him? You have Bryce Young. I wouldn't put Bryce Young above Nix. JJ McCarthy, I definitely wouldn't put. Drake May, I think there's an argument there. More big time plays. He was like one of the top 3 efficient rushing quarterbacks last season. Like he ran really well and he was throwing to absolutely nobody with, I don't know if Brian Baldwin, I think is the name. He has the Running Backs Don't Matter website. He does trench metrics every week. Broncos had the number 1 best pass blocking offensive line in football. The Patriots had the dead last pass blocking offensive line in football. That matters. That matters. So again, May I think there's an argument for. You had Penix, I would take him above Nix above. Caleb Williams, Cam Ward, we haven't seen yet. Darnold, I think there's enough bad from Darnold that you'd still argue Nix. Russell Wilson's at 27, so we feel good there. Fields at 28, then you got Joe Flacco 29, 30 is Anthony Richardson, 31 Mason Rudolph, and 32 Tyler Shuck. So 19 I think is on the low end overall, but when this first came out, Eric, I was like anything from Bo Nix from 15 to 20, I'm not going to have too much argument with right now, and he's on the low end of that. I understand that, but I don't think it's totally egregious right now. Now, if the question was going forward, like 2025 through 2035, as opposed to the 2025 season, I think that's a different conversation, obviously. Yeah. But for 2025, I don't have too much issue with him at 19. Is there anybody in that lower list that you would have above or an argument there?
I'm with you. I can get the argument for Drake May. I'm not fully buying that argument, but I can get it. I think there's only one quarterback who's not even on the list, and it's because he's currently not with the team, that would push Bo Nix down. Is Aaron Rodgers.
Good call.
Like if Aaron Rodgers was with an NFL team, he would probably be ahead of Bo Nix and pushing Bo Nix down to 20. But again, 15 to 20 for Bo Nix. That is where I figured he would land. My biggest issue is, again, it's just Tua and Kyler Murray being ahead of him. That to me is just egregious. It's insane to me. And again, going into the reasonings here, and it's just it's rough because for Kyler Murray, after multiple injury-plagued seasons, Murray finally stayed healthy in 2024 and delivered an 82.1 overall grade. If he can avoid the injury bug again in 2025, he's well positioned to take another step forward in year 3 under head coach Jonathan Gannon and offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. All right, if he can stay healthy. He had that 82.1 overall grade in 2024 when he finally stayed healthy. And, Pro Football Focus, they love using their grades for it, and we have our issues here. Well, after a rocky start, including 3 sub-50 games in his first 4 outings, Nix found his footing, posting 85.7 grade the rest of the way, 6th best in the league in that span. So, yeah, it was a rocky start for Bo Nix, and then afterwards he came out and showed that he was significantly better than Kyler Murray, and he played every single game. And he hasn't, it's only been one season, but he hasn't had the injury bug like Kyler Murray has. And then Tua Tagovailoa, who was at 18, one spot ahead of him. Tagovailoa might be the most polarizing quarterback in the league when comparing production to Pro Football Focus grade. He put up strong numbers and grades in 2022 and 2023, but took a noticeable step back in 2024 after suffering another concussion in week 2. He never quite looked the same after returning. If Tua can rebound, the Dolphins become a dangerous team in 2025. But there's a real question as to whether he'll return to his 2023 form when he earned an 86.9 overall grade. How? Like, when you read that, nothing in there says that should put him higher than Bo Nix for it. If he can return, he never looked the same. There's a real question if he can return to his 2023 form. Those two, to me, it's just, I cannot understand putting either of those ahead of Bo Nix.
Yeah. I think that when I look at the list, the guys who I would put in this is why tiered lists are better, right? Just a little bit more nuance versus the numerical list, ordinal. Is that the right word? Ordinal. I prefer categorical. But I think that Tua, definitely I would have Nix above Tua right now. I know they've had some good offenses and some hyper efficiency, but I don't trust it at all. And you mentioned Kyler Murray. I think also there's an argument for Bo Nix over Trevor Lawrence. That's one that I have. Kyler and Trevor, their former number 1 overall picks. They obviously have a lot of talent. Again, I think there is an argument for those guys above Nix, broader sample size, a little bit more trust in the sample, but it hasn't been all good either. So I think there's an argument to put him above those guys. After that, though, am I putting him above the one who I think is very, in my opinion, Eric, egregiously ranked low is Dak. I mean, he had obviously the injury last season, but they've had a pretty poor system out there for a number of years. Offensive line used to be pretty good. They haven't really had much of a run game. They don't have anything to throw to besides CeeDee Lamb, who's great, but it's kind of hard when you only have one guy. And having him all the way down at 17, I mean, I think there's an argument to have him all the way up to 9-10 when I'm looking at this list here. I probably would have Dak up there personally, but I like Dak. I think Dak's a pretty darn good quarterback. He's definitely one of the best pocket passers in the entire NFL. But other than that, again, I just don't have too much issue with it. I think one thing I do have exception with as well is I would have Jackson and Allen over Joe Burrow. And I think I would move Stafford up to 5, Herbert up to 6, and put Jalen Hurts at 7, and then Daniels down probably at 8. I want to see it again from Daniels. I worry a little bit about the play style still. I mean, he's a skinny guy and he runs a lot, but that's, again, we said Nix 15 to 20. That sounds about right for what we've seen so far from him, being conservative on the approach there. We do have Jeremy come in and he says, where was it? He said Nix is going to be top 5 to 10, top 10 pushing 5 going forward. That would be awesome. There's some real good quarterbacks ahead of him there that I just want to see it. But I mean, anything is possible. And Herbert hasn't done nothing Nix hasn't done, other than having a historically good rookie season and beating the pants off of Nix in 2 head-to-heads. But that was more so the offensive lines. It's a broader sample size of good play. I mean, if Nix did what he did the last half of the season over a 4-year sample, he'd be top 10. He would be top 10. But again, the smaller sample, there's much more variance when you have a smaller sample.
Yeah, and I mean, if we were getting into other quarterbacks, I think Geno Smith is a little high, but I'm not a big Geno Smith fan. I'm not saying that he's, I wouldn't put him below 15, but he came in at 10. I think just a couple spots lower, I think would be fair to him moving up. I would probably put Jordan Love and I think CJ Stroud and Dak Prescott, I think I would put all over Geno Smith, I think. But you mentioned Trevor Lawrence for another one who can Bo Nix and go. And I'm with you. I think Trevor Lawrence is quite a bit overrated as a quarterback. We've kind of hit that point. And there was a question there for a little while is if the Jaguars are going to move on from him, because there was some chatter going around in the NFL circles that they were just ready to basically start over with that. And the reasoning for, and part of the reasoning for it is, or for from Pro Football Focus, where they grade him, is that his 79.7 overall grade in 2023 was a career high. It's like, that's fine quarterback play, but it's not great. It's not good. And so again, it's one of those things of the 1 year of Bo Nix is they really hit him with that because it's just a small sample size, but that small sample size was better than what we've gotten out of Trevor Lawrence over the multiple years of his. But Trevor Lawrence hasn't exactly had the best situation around him, from coaching to offensive line play to even the weaponry around it. So I to an extent, I get why they have Trevor Lawrence ahead of Bo Nix for this, because it's for 2025. And, with Travis Hunter being added, with Brian Thomas and what he showed last year, with some of the moves they made to improve their offensive line, like, I understand it. And then, bringing in Liam Cohen, that's a big factor for them as well. So I get it. And I don't think it's egregious to have him ahead of Bo Nix, but it's one that I would, if they put Bo Nix ahead of him, I'd be probably more content. Again, it's just Murray and Tua are egregious to me. Trevor Lawrence is one. It's like either way is fine, but Bo Nix probably should be ahead of him.
Yeah. Again, it's the range there for me, and I don't have too much of an issue with it. But what does Bo Nix have to do to work his way into the top 5-10? I just looked at the stats also. As there's Justin Herbert slander going on in the chat. I get it. A lot of good stats, although for a number of those years there, they had like a bottom 5 defense, which how good would the Broncos record been last year if they had a bottom 5 defense? Yeah. Probably not pretty good, but I mean, he's thrown for almost 5,000 yards 3 seasons. Yeah, he threw for over 4,300 his first 3 seasons. 31 to 10 touchdown interception ratio first year, 38 to 15 second year, 25 to 10 second year. His AV approximate value from Pro Football Reference has been higher 4 of his 5 seasons over than what Nix had last season. So Herbert's a good quarterback. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he's really good. He deserves to be in that top 7 for sure. But if you want to argue team success, whatever. I mean, if you recall, there was a lot the year prior, I think it was, or leading up to when Sean Payton joined Denver. All the talk was that Sean Payton really wanted to go to the Chargers. Do you remember this? Chat remember this? I'm not making this up. There was like, he really wants the Chargers, and he wants to work with Justin Herbert. Chargers job, they kept Staley. It's good for them. Thank you. That didn't become open. The rest is history. Sean Payton becomes a Broncos coach, and you got Harbaugh going to the Chargers. But there was a lot of talk coming out of Fox where Sean Payton worked in moonlit as an analyst that, like, if the Chargers job opens, Sean Payton wants the Chargers. He wants to stay in LA. He loves Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Chargers. The Cowboys were the other team that if the job opens, that's where Sean Payton wanted. Part of that is, his connection with the Cowboys franchise for so long. Yeah. And then, he really wanted to work with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. He's a great quarterback, and he gets slammed a lot for the overall team success. And it's not like he's always had the best weapons around him, right? He had Keenan Allen there towards the, on the downfall of his career, still put up some good numbers there. Austin Eckler on the downside of his career. Josh Palmer was their top receiver going into last year. Ladd McConkey stepped up and took over it. And even now, like, there's still some questions about the overall weapons they have outside of running back with bringing in Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. There's a lot of questions about the tight end room, where I think Will Disley is currently their top tight end. And then wide receiver, still pretty messy. Ladd McConkey's great, and they brought in a receiver in the draft as well who can help, but I can't remember which receiver it was. Trey Harris, yeah.
So and they also brought in somebody else too.
So they brought in some pieces there, but Justin Herbert, he's a guy who has really elevated the offense for it, dealt with a lot of issues with the defense. But people forget, we've seen that Chargers offense without Justin Herbert. When that talent level at quarterback significantly drops,
Easton
and
Stick.
It wasn't pretty.
It was Easton Stick. Big difference between was it Jake Browning went in for Joe Burrow, and that Bengals offense kept humming. So Joe Burrow's very good. I think that I would not put him 2. I think that he's closer to Herbert than he is Allen and Jackson, personally speaking. As a somebody who's been called Joe Burrow's doppelganger. He's better looking than me. I'm Joe Burrow's ugly brother beaten with a stick. But back to the thing, final bit here before we close up shop here, and we'll see you guys again sometime in June. But what does Bo Nix have to do to elevate himself from this 19, which is the low end of his range, I think, to somebody who's more in that, let's call it 8 to 15 range?
Avoid the sophomore slump. I think that's the first one, is avoid that. You don't want to take that step back, because last year at this time, I mean, you'd mentioned CJ Stroud. Last year at this time, we're talking about CJ Stroud as a top 10 going into the season. And he took that step back. Not all him. Some of it was some of the injuries that they dealt with to their weapons. You know, they lost Tank Dell. That was a big one for it. And so their offensive line was a mess, still is. And the offensive play calling wasn't great. So how much of the changes there, how much is that going to help him? So, but Bo Nix doesn't hopefully have those same issues. We know the offensive line is going to be better than what the Texans got. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to be worse than what the Texans had last year. The play calling, that's going to be better than what the Texans got. We know that because of the coaching difference. The weapons, if they can stay healthy, it will be a better than they had last year. So the pieces are there for Bo Nix to avoid that slump, especially with having Sean Payton at the helm, you know, being the play caller. That should help avoid that. And so avoiding that sophomore slump and then building on it, improving his techniques in certain aspects, primarily in, you know, that passing, pure drop back passing aspect of it, and dealing with pressure, how he handles that, and making some smarter decisions under duress, right? Some of those interceptions we saw were really bad decisions when he was dealing with pressure and led to, you know, the mistakes that happened. So improving those areas, I think we can get to that conversation of 8 to 15 really for Bo Nix last year. And just taking that next step forward with his development while avoiding that dreaded sophomore slump.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, I think the big question will be Bo Nix playing well in clutch situations against big competition. We saw the big play last season versus Cleveland in a shootout, but you know, you had the game against the Ravens. You had the game obviously against the Bills. Just like some of these more premier matchups, being able to go head to head against some of those guys, because as much as, you know, we're statistical in a lot of these approaches, it is still narrative driven, and there are games that have more eyeballs and will weigh more. Like if Bo Nix goes out and what he did with last year versus the Panthers, you know, belt to, you know what, like, oh, Panthers have a historically bad defense. Great. The Falcons as well. You beat up on the Chiefs backups. You beat up on them. That's great. Good job. But, you know, that still counts, but doesn't weigh as much in the narrative. The other aspect, and this is not Bo Nix's fault by any means. It's not a defect either. It's a benefit in the system. But we didn't see Bo Nix have to operate in adverse situations all that often last season. We didn't see him have to operate true, obvious pass situations in the drop back game. It was a lot of quick screens, a lot of RPO centric stuff, a lot of quick reads, get the ball out. But at the end, it is the NFL. At the end of the day, what's going to separate the good quarterbacks from the great ones is how they operate in true under center, full field read, drop back settings. And that's something that we didn't see very often from Bo Nix. And he's a rookie. It's tough because it's like, we need to see this to know how good of a quarterback he can be. He's a rookie quarterback. We don't want to see it yet. Like, anything you can do to avoid getting into those situations is good because it's disadvantageous. But again, that's something that long-term I want to see. The other aspect, and this is baked into it as well, as true dropback situations, he just needs to do a better job of understanding the pocket and manipulating the pocket in the dropback game. So again, that's a hard ask for rookie. That was a question about him coming out, just what he was asked to do at Oregon. It's like, I don't know how he's going to operate here. The stats are the stats. He was the worst quarterback in EPA per play and under pressure dropback last season. The sample was small, so it's going to be volatile. You know, a few more games in there and it could drastically change because the sample is so small from him being under pressure. But the ability to manipulate the pocket, understand where the space is, stay in phase in his progressions, work his reads, and deliver the football based on the coverage and everything. Because last season, I thought he would get rid of the ball sometimes when there was not pressure, there. He had time and space to manipulate the pocket, or sometimes he would work his way into a spot where it's like you have room and you gave yourself less room and time based on your movement within the pocket. So again, these are very advanced things, and it's easier for me to say under my Broncos blanket in my basement when I'm not having freak athletes chasing me, right? But like those are the areas, and he may never get there. It may be 3 years from now where he gets there. It takes time if they get there at all. So those are the things like that could really change his game as an elevated passer. But I'm not faulting him for it. I'm not saying he doesn't have it somewhat. I think it's just more incomplete because the sample is low. We are. Jeremy's getting tired of it. Nick's picking per usual. We're going to pick all the players on the Broncos. We don't watch the other teams as much. So again, we're just talking about areas where he can improve. And if he can do that, we're talking about a guy who's top 10, top 5 with the requisite arm talent. It's not a howitzer, but it's good enough. And the good athleticism in the frame. So those are the areas I think that if he can work his way there, stand in the pocket a little bit longer, deliver the footballs, get through his progressions under duress. Those are the big areas for me.
Yeah, from what it sounds like in things that have been going on, it seems like that the focus this offseason, obviously you couldn't do that last season. He's a rookie. He had to come in and he had to pick up the offense. This year, they can focus more on specific aspects to his game to grow and develop there. It seems like that pocket stuff, manipulating the pocket, working a true drop back passing game, that seems to be the focus of what they're working on and improving upon for this year, because there were some things they had to do to avoid it. There were a lot of issues that they had last year. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not so sure it's going to be, like amazing or perfect this year. But I think that he's going to show improvements this season, especially if they are really focusing in on getting those improvements in that area this year.
And again, just to emphasize, I don't think it is a derogatory to point it out by any means. It's just an aspect where, okay, where can he grow to actually elevate himself into the upper echelon of quarterbacks? That's an area it was either not very good last season, which is fine. We're grading him on the Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow scale here, not the rookie quarterback or Broncos historical scale. So that's where we're coming from with that perspective. And it's an area that I don't fault the Broncos for insulating him and protecting him from those situations. It's a good thing that they did that. So long term, what does it look like? How can he grow there? Those are areas that in due time we'll figure out. But I'm actually really impressed about, despite some of the outlier statistics, again, the worst quarterback under pressure and EPA per drop back among qualifiers. Like that's, something the Broncos obviously know. I'm sure Bo Nix knows as well. And they're going to have to work on to try to get better there. And as you mentioned, this little confirmation bias there on the stuff they're working on is like, well, that's exactly what I saw that I would be arguing they should work on as well, watching the All-22, the coaches film from, directly down the end zone view. It's like some of the pocket movement and hanging in the pocket. It's a double-edged sword though, right? You have the hanging on too long, taking the sacks and putting up bad footballs versus you feel pressure, you escape or get rid of the football. There's it's a fine line staying in there and being a big game hunter within the chaos of the pocket. So again, it's tough, but the best quarterbacks in the league thread that needle. So we'll see. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Colin says, take the summer off, go on a hike. No, the content machine rages on, Colin. We're going to be here to talk. We are taking off next week though, all the same. So any final thoughts? Again, 19, it's on the lower end. 15 to 20, I think, makes sense for him for a rookie quarterback. But I think because of that perspective, Jaden Daniels is way too high. He should be like, even though he had a great season, I wouldn't have him any higher than 10.
Yeah. And one thing too with Bo Nix about it is he's a second-year player. Every second-year player has stuff they can grow and develop, right? Especially quarterbacks. No player comes in the NFL complete. Heck, even Andrew Luck, even Peyton Manning going into year 2, they all had issues that they needed to work on and develop for year 2. And Bo Nix being the quarterback, he's the one that's going to be the focus of it. But I'm sure over the summer when we're here with you guys, we're going to be talking about a bunch of other players and where they can still grow. Heck, there's still times where we're talking about areas where Courtland Sutton can still grow a little bit as a player and improve on. It's like that with all players. Like unless you are like elite, then there's always something. And even then, I would argue there are still things Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson can improve upon, and they're considered the elite of the elite uh, here in the NFL. So, Bo Nix, he had a great year last year. It's just now time to see a little bit more, avoid that sophomore slump, and see more growth to where he can really, cement himself as one of the best NFL quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and truly cement himself as the franchise quarterback for the Broncos. He's well on his way. But the next step is, what does he do this year? And these are some areas that can help him take that next step.
And it's crazy. We talk about it's just good business and good practice in general to avoid the keep up obvious drop back game. And it's something where I think for a long time, from a statistical output perspective, I held it against Tom Brady. But really, it was that situation with a perennial top 5 offensive line, perennial top 5 defense, kept him in good down and distances and allowed them to mix and match what they were going to call sequence plays, and allowed him to grow. So this season, you can argue, even though it's like at some point, push comes to shove when you are against good enough competition, like we saw with the Broncos defense versus the Bills and the Ravens last season, the defense didn't have an answer in those ones. It would have taken Bo Nix playing like he did against the Browns for the Broncos to have a chance in that one. And that's when, quarterbacks going Super Saiyan for the nerds at home. You want your quarterbacks to have that ability, but you don't want them to have to constantly do that. And how the Broncos have built the roster, again, if they can stay healthy, top 5, top 10 offensive line, top 5, top 7 defense, Sean Payton, it's a damn good situation for the quarterback. And some people will use it against Bo Nix as like a negative. I think it's more so we'll have some questions still, all the same, but the sample will be larger and we'll have a better idea. So excited. I mean, the big point here is that the Broncos do have their quarterback, and the question isn't if he's a starting caliber quarterback. It's going to be, where does he fall and settle in as a ranking of a quarterback, and what does that mean for his contract years from now? We don't have to worry that for a bit. We'll have an idea of who Bo Nix is by that point, but it's good stuff for the Broncos. Really encouraging, even though on the surface looking at 19, well, that's not fair. You look at the guys above him, it's like, okay, like it's a list in May. Like, I'm not going to be too upset about it right now. So I think it's fine. And Broncos country should be very encouraged, because I think there is a real pathway for him to finish somewhere in that 8 to 14 range this season. And if he finishes there with this roster, there is no ceiling. There is no ceiling.
And you talk about finishing 8 to 15, and there are some very obvious guys that he can overtake. Again, as I said, I think Tua and Kyler Murray are ahead of him already, but you can still, after the season, maybe you can start making the case for putting him over Baker Mayfield, over Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Jared Goff, and Matthew Stafford. Both of them can have that conversation. Matthew Stafford, with his age in particular, I think you can start having that conversation of putting him above those guys. And that's 6 guys. So that brings him up to 13. And then there's those other guys like Dak Prescott. What does he do with the injuries? Does CJ Stroud bounce back with the new coaching? So there's basically anybody that's between 10 and 18. You can have that conversation for that. Bo Nix has a legitimate shot of surpassing this season. So again, it's as you said, it's a quarterback listing in May. Not going to get too upset about it. I think there's only 2 things that are really, somewhat upsetting to me, and that's, again, just Tua and Kyler Murray being ahead of him. But it is what it is, and I have no doubt in my mind that Bo Nix will be higher this time next year. I think that with Sean Payton and what they've done with the offense, targeting specific areas to improve the offense around him, I'm not expecting a sophomore slump from Bo Nix this year. Last year with CJ Stroud, it was easier to see the possibility for it because of the unproven and uncertainty with the offensive coordinator calling the plays. And they're coming out a bunch of word that there were some issues in headbutting between CJ Stroud and I can't even remember his name, the analytics guy that got the job towards the end of his rookie season, and then having the concerns that they did about their offensive line. It was easy to see the possibility for it. With Bo Nix, anything's possible, but the pieces are there with Sean Payton leading the way as the play caller to avoid that sophomore slump and help Bo Nix take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was listening to the Mina Kimes podcast, and they had I think I talked about this on Monday too, but they had a somebody, I think it was Kevin Clark, interviewed a upper Eagles executive, and they mentioned that when it comes to team building, it's the first question is the trenches, and then after that, everything's a tiebreaker. And obviously, the Broncos had some questions in the offensive weaponry last season, but give me the defense and the offensive line and the offensive play designer / sequencer over the weapons at the end of the day. I'm trying to win football games, not just build the best stats overall. So Troy coming in $9.99. What do you watch for during the summer that is useful information instead of misleading speculation? A lot of times I'll look at like big picture things. I'll start to get ahead on the contract stuff. Like if I have time, we might be moving this summer, so that'd be hard to do, but I would like to look at a lot of the more stable statistics for pass rushers and see how that correlates with Nick Bonito last season. There's a lot of like, unblocked pressures, quick pressures, one-on-one rate, double team rate, stuff like that there where I'm not just looking at the sack total to determine who's a good pass rusher, because that can be a little bit more volatile and fluky. So stuff like that. And also I started to try to get ahead on the 2026 draft class as well. So good quarterback class next season. I'm glad we're not going to have to dabble with that too much, but it's almost a little bit of a bummer because there's so many fun ones to watch next year, and a pretty good offensive tackle class. What I will say, the wide receivers look terrible. So if people are looking for a wide receiver, I mean, some things can change. Of course, things will change, but early on, wide receiver looks pretty dreadful in the 2026 class. 2027 looks incredible at wide receiver. 2026 looks like it's an offensive tackle, defensive line year with better linebacker play next season as well. So we'll see. Bad tight end class on the surface right now as well, but we'll see. But thank you, Troy, and thanks everybody. We're going to wrap it on up here. Glad we didn't have technical issues today. Thanks everybody for the fun conversation. Yeah, excited about Bo Nix, and even though he's ranked low on this list, there's real argument that he can rock it up, and they're reasonable. We're not just talking pie in the sky Drew Lock, like, oh, maybe he can turn it around, even though he's had, a year and 4 games of a bad sample. Like maybe he'll end up being the guy, because you never know. Look at Josh Allen, right? Okay. Oh, well, crazy things do happen, but Bo Nix, it's built on a solid foundation. And that's reason for optimism for me. Make sure you guys are following Eric and I on Twitter. Eric is at Erick Trickel. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle there. If you're joining us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Thank you to all our star givers today. Mike Gibbons, big time. Brian, did we not get Brian done? If we didn't, I apologize, Brian. We appreciate you so much for the $19.99 on all the comments as well. I don't remember highlighting this one. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Maybe Dylan did, maybe Dylan didn't. But appreciate you, Brian, coming in here. All the questions and everything as well. You have a good one. And then, of course, Troy Boer coming in $9.99 as well. Our 3 super chat givers, but all 3 very generous with that as well. So hopefully everybody has a good rest of your day. Eric, any final thoughts?
No, I just hope everybody has a good rest of your day. I hope you guys enjoy your week next week. I think the plan is me filling in for you on Tuesday night as well again. And we will be back for you in the morning on June 2nd.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody asked best piece of Broncos memorabilia in here. Do you have anything off the top of your head?
No.
I think the the fur coat from the Broncos owner. Got it. His name. All of a sudden, I'm blanking. I had his name.
Bolin.
Pat Bolin's fur coat.
Fur coat.
If you get Pat Bolin's fur coat, that would be the absolute coolest memorabilia you could have, because it'd be so niche. That would be incredible. There. So yeah, I think that's the one I'd go with, just for the silliness of it and a good story, and people actually in Broncos country would be like, that is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. To have that. So that's my thought. Maybe I thought a Barrelman's barrel as well. I think that's in the Hall of Fame though, so I don't want to be in trouble for them. And Jeremy says one of the Lombardi trophies. Might be in trouble for that one as well. But I'd like that. Those would be some of my favorites.
Yeah, I think that the fur coat would definitely be, a major flex, right? If you got that fur coat, that'd be such a flex. If you're outside of Broncos country, you wouldn't get it, but Broncos country would. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would come to mind, and I can't. Sean Payton's game sheet with the just run it. I think that would be a cool one to have.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're not going to get that because it's got their call sheet on it. But
Elway Scooter. Down in Houston, I think it was. Yeah, that's a great one as well. Dylan has Crabtree's Chain. That is a good one as well. Good job, Dylan. Appreciate everyone. We're going to get out of here. Got to get on dad duty and get on into the office. But everyone have a great rest of your day. Have a good Memorial Day with family and however you choose to spend your time that day. Good to see Eric again. Thank you guys for joining us on a special Thursday show. Like Eric said, we will be back again Monday, June 2nd. So enjoy your week next week. Choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.